guys, welcome back for episode number 135 of the weekly playback. This is going to be a much shorter episode for a couple of reasons. Number one is I've only played 2 games in the last week. That's because one of my game nights we spent cataloging again my board game collection so that hopefully I can start selling games soon. So I would say we're like halfway done, a little more than halfway done with all the games I own. So that's good. The other reason is I think I have like really bad allergies or something. So I get these like coughing fits now and then. So I imagine it would probably not be good for me to talk for a long period of time. I think it's like allergies because like my throat was feeling a bit sore, but I get these coughing fits when it feels like something is tickling my throat, and it happens at the most inconvenient of times, like when I'm in public outside and then people are just staring at me and it's embarrassing. So that's another reason. And the other reason is stuff came up today and I was going to do my readings for book clubs today, but all this other stuff came up and I didn't get a chance to do my readings after all, so there will be no book clubs, but I'll still have timestamps for it just to remind people which chapters to read and stuff like that. And then finally, sorry for the delay in last week's video being uploaded. Like YouTube was just giving me so many issues and with uploading my video, and I hope that that will not happen this week. And just as a reminder, but I'll say this again at the end, there will be no new video for like 2 weeks because I'm going on a work trip. So I'm leaving for a work trip on February 15th, going to Southern California. So yeah, so if anyone knows of any game stores like in the San Diego area, let me know. Maybe I can check one out. So yeah, so I guess that's it. So let's just get started. So let's talk about Dice Throne. I'm not sure if I've actually ever talked about this game in my weekly playback, but this is a game that I used to play a lot during lockdown over video chat with a friend of mine. He's the one who kind of like introduced me. Well, someone else mentioned Dice Throne, and then this friend kind of introduced me to it, and I actually really enjoy it. So we actually played another game of this recently, actually just last night, and yeah, so it was really good to get back into it. So I played with my Santa and Krampus edition. So I own a couple from volume 2 and a couple from volume 1. I do not own Dice Throne Marvel, but if I were ever to get Dice Throne Marvel, I would like to get the Loki one and Doctor Strange, because those are my 2 favorite Marvel characters. Otherwise, I'm not really into Marvel characters. So if I could get those 2, that would be awesome, but they don't unfortunately come in the same box. And then I backed this on Kickstarter, and I was not aware that there was like a Halloween themed one that was on Kickstarter, because I was saying to my friend last night, like, I really wish that there were a Halloween Dice Throne. And then he's like, well, there was one on Kickstarter. Not like super Halloweeny, but it does include like the Headless Horseman and like some other characters that could be very Halloween-esque. So I think I'll need to get that when that hits retail, since I didn't back it on Kickstarter. But yeah, so we played this one last night, and I played as Krampus and my friend played as Santa Claus. So I don't know if you guys are into dice games, but I'm into dice games if if you can mitigate certain things, or if the dice you roll, like you have like, some more options with the dice you're rolling, and in Dice Throne you absolutely do. So this is like a battling type game. So let me just read you the information for this edition specifically. So Dice Throne Santa vs. Krampus is designed by Gavin Brown and Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay, and the art is done by Manny Tremblay. And this came out in 2022. Oh gosh, I guess I've had it for a long time and I haven't played it. Or maybe I wonder if that's one like no, it couldn't have been the original Dice Throne because I was playing Dice Throne during lockdown. Okay, so I guess this edition did come out in 2022. So I've had it for a very long time, I guess. And it's for 2 to 6 players. I've only ever played this as a 2-player game. I've never played it with more than that, but I think it would be cool to try it that way, because then, you'll be, trying to kill other players too and not just one player. So your attacks could be, distributed between other more players, which I think would be fun. So each player is going to have their own board, which looks like this, and you're going to see like different types of actions on your board, including a defense action here, which you'll do when you're defending, and these can be upgraded. So each person is going to have a health tracker. So this is a health tracker. So this is, I guess I'm showing you Santa's even though I played as Krampus. And then each person is going to have 5 dice, which have symbols on them. So each person's dice is, are going to be unique to them, and they're all very thematic. So of course, Santa, it looks like he's got an axe. I don't know how an axe is thematic for Santa, but okay. And it's got bells, and it looks like a star. I don't know. And then he's got tokens, which include bells and eggnog. So, so different kinds of tokens for Santa. Krampus had gifts and coal, I think, if I remember correctly. So, each one comes with like this kind of character sheet, which kind of explains things. Yeah, so and then each person has cards, of course. So this edition, it comes with this really cool holographic Santa card, and the Krampus one is holographic as well. And then each player is going to have a deck of cards, which you're going to shuffle, and then you are going to draw 4 to start the game with. And you also have combat points, which you're going to be using. So the first player, I believe, starts with 0, and the second player starts with 2. And combat points you'll be using in order to upgrade certain actions on your player board and in order to perform certain actions as well, like the cards in your hands, because some of them cost combat points in order for you to play them. So the first thing you're going to do is you have the income phase when it's your turn. So you will gain 1 combat point and you will draw 1 card. Then you have your main phase. During your main phase, that's when you can play ability upgrades. So if you have an ability upgrade, so for example, let me find one. Here's an ability upgrade. So Eggnoggin' It 2. So this would upgrade Santa's defense ability. So he would, if Santa upgrades their ability by spending the combat points, they would place this on top, and now they would have a better defense ability. So if you have that card in hand, you can spend the combat points in order to play it and upgrade your ability. So that's the first thing you can do on your turn, is you can spend combat points in order to make upgrades onto your board. Then you will play your main phase action cards. So if you have any main phase action cards that you want to play, you would do this at this time. So again, some of them will cost combat points. Some of them might even be free. Yeah. So like, let me find a main phase example. Here's one. So this would be like one. So it's called Bye-Bye. Remove a status effect token from a chosen player. So you could spend combat points in order to play this card, for example. Then you will, if you want to, you can sell cards and gain combat points, 1 combat point per card. So you would just get rid of it. So you would not be able to use it again. Then you have your offensive roll phase. So you will roll all of your dice, and you can do this up to 3 times. And you don't have to re-roll all of your dice if you want to re-roll some. So you'll roll them, and then you'll try to make some combinations of different things in order to inflict damage, or, maybe inflict various kinds of tokens on other players, or remove damage, improve your health, or, give yourself some special tokens if you have tokens that will give you special abilities. So you're trying to get various combinations of dice in order to activate your different abilities on your player board. So you'll only ever really be able to do 1 ability, because there's nothing here that requires just 2 dice, and then another thing that requires just 3. So the minimum you need in order to activate some kind of an ability on your player board is 3 dice. So you can never end up doing more than 1 of these. So you're going to roll your dice and then try to come up with the best combination you can. It might happen where you re-roll thinking that you might be able to get something better, and then you re-roll for the second time because you're allowed up to 3 rolls, and then you screw yourself over because then there's like actually nothing you can do. So that kind of happened to me when I was playing last night as Krampus. I did manage to somehow save myself in the end and do something. I can't remember, I had like some special card or something where in the end I was able to do something, but not with my dice because my dice really sucked. So yeah, for that one, particular roll. So you're going to roll and then carry out your actions. Sometimes when you inflict damage on someone else, it's undefendable. So there is undefendable damage as well, which has a red circle around it. So that would be undefendable. So if you manage to get 4 bells, you would inflict undefendable damage on the other player. So after targeting an opponent, you each roll 1 die. If your roll is equal or greater, deal 6 undefendable damage and gain cheer. But if you inflict defendable damage on someone, then that person gets to use their defense action and roll a certain number of dice to see if they can defend themselves and, you know, ward off some of that damage, or maybe heal themselves. So the person does have a chance to defend themselves if it's defendable damage. So after you've done that, so after you've done your offensive roll and your targeting roll phase, and then the other person does their defensive roll phase, then you go back to the main phase where you can again play ability upgrades, you can again play main action cards or sell cards. And then you have the discard phase where you have to sell cards beyond 6. So you can't have more than 6 cards in your hand at a time. And then it would be the next player's turn and they would go through all of this as well. The first person who gets to a health of 0, and you start with 50, I believe. So if you get to a health of 0, then you lose. So then the other person would win. And I guess maybe in a multiplayer game, I guess you would have to get 2 people to 0 in order for you to win. I haven't played beyond 2 players, so I'm not sure how that would work. But this is actually a really fun game, and it's so easy to play over video chat. It's really great to play over video chat because it does not take up a lot of room, and you can have each player's board laid out in front of you and place tokens appropriately on your own board or the other player's board if you need to while playing over video chat. So if you have a friend who you want to play games with but they don't live locally, this is a really great game to play over video chat. There is an element of trust, of course, if you can't see the person's dice because you don't have an overhead camera. So of course you have to be honest. Like, of course there's going to be times where someone might get a really good roll and you just have to trust them. Like I got a really good roll when I was playing last night, but in the end I lost. So of course I wasn't cheating because that would be really stupid. Like no game is really worth cheating. But yeah, so you just, you know, have to trust each other and be honest when you're playing. So don't play over video chat with cheaters, obviously. But that is Dice Throne, and I just really enjoy this game, and it was just really fun to play after so many years because the last time I played it was in 2021. So it's been like, you know, 4 years. So very long time. Well, maybe not quite 4, more like 3 because it was towards the end of 2021 when I last played this game. Yeah, and I would like to check out some of the Halloween characters when that edition is released, and play with some of my older favorite characters like the vampire. Like I really like playing with the vampire and some of the other characters that I used to play with. Yeah, so I do recommend checking out Dice Throne if that sounds like something you're interested in. And let me just show you some of the Krampus stuff. So let me just show you Krampus's board. So this is Krampus. And again, you know, each player character is going to be quite thematic. So Krampus has coal and different gifts, and Krampus has these other kinds of creature cards that he can use. I don't remember what they were called. What are they called? They were called rejects. So he has rejects. They're like companion cards that you can use, which are pretty cool. And Krampus's dice has a gift. It has the Krampus itself. It has this like bauble, like ornament, and then it has, am I forgetting something? Twig, bauble, Krampus, ornament. Yep, I think that's it. A gift, yeah. So those are Krampus's dice. And then of course he also has his combat tracker and everything like that. And let me just show you Krampus's holographic card because that's really cool as well. Yeah. So yeah, so that is Dice Throne. So check it out if you would like. And yeah, so let's move on. So I played a classic game recently, which I'd never played before, and I'm really glad I finally got the chance to play it because it's a favorite of many people's, and that is Orléans. So I played a 5-player game of Orléans on Friday night. And we played with, I believe, like a newer upgraded edition and with the Plague expansion. So when I talk about it, I'm going to be talking about it with the Plague expansion because I don't know how it plays without that. So this is a 2014 game designed by Rainer Stockhausen, and the art is done by Clemens Franz. And there's a lot of different publishers listed, and I think that's because it has different editions and so on. So like the first publisher listed here is DLP Games. So again, I played with an upgraded edition, which included these really nice bits that the person had bought from Board Game Geek, and with the Plague expansion. So again, bear in mind that I'm going to be talking about it as though those are included. So the first thing you're going to do is the main board is going to have a stack of tiles, which is the timer of the game. So first you're going to reveal a tile, which is going to have some kind of an event for that round. So with our Plague expansion that we were playing with, there were certain tokens, character tokens, which are monks, which can be used as wilds, and I'll get into what that means later. But right off the bat, we were allowed to have only half of them on the board for people to be able to collect and add to their bag. So half of them were already removed. So I think we had about 10 that were available for people to collect throughout the game. So the first thing you're going to do is reveal a tile, and this is going to have an event which takes place at the end of the round though. And it's going to also tell you how many corpses you need to add to your bag. And sometimes those corpses will actually go to your market at the bottom of your board and take up spaces instead of going directly into your bag. But corpses are really annoying because they do take up space in your market. So when everyone is simultaneously drawing character tokens out of their bag, which they're then going to place onto their board, firstly, you're limited to how many character tokens you draw, depending on how far along you are on a certain track on the board, which is the warrior track, I guess. It's the red track, which tells you how many tokens you're allowed to draw out of your bag. And I'll explain how you go up these various tracks as well. So number one, you're limited. So everyone starts by being able to draw 4 tokens out of their bag. And incidentally, you start the game with 4 tokens. So everyone's going to start the game with the 4 same tokens, which are in your own player colors actually. And those are, I believe, a farmer. I believe you start with one of the blue guys, which again, I don't know what that blue guy is, what he's called. I believe you start with a warrior, and I'm just going to call him a warrior or soldier, whatever. And I think you start with either a king or the brown guy. I can't remember. It's either the black token or the brown token. I can't remember which one. So everyone basically starts with the same tokens, and then you will decide where you want to assign them on your player board. So now we'll go over the different kinds of sections on your player board. So at the top, you're going to see ship, wagon, and guild hall. So on the main board, there's going to be a map, and everyone starts in the same section, and you are going to be traveling along the map and picking up various tokens. If you are the first person to go over a section that has a good on it, you can pick up that good, and you can either turn it in later to help complete some objectives, or you can save it for the end of the game where they will be worth points. So in order to move on the map, you need to either travel by ship or by wagon. So each person has a meeple, and you're just going to move it either over a water route or a land route, depending on if you choose to travel by ship or wagon. And then if you land somewhere, you can build a guild hall if you manage to fill up your guild hall section with tokens. So the guild hall section requires a farmer, a brown guy, and a red guy. So white, brown, and red. So if you manage to put those tokens onto your guild hall section on your board, then you can build a guild hall, and those are going to help you multiply your points at the end of the game. So I'll explain, scoring as we're kind of going along, and then again at the end of the game. So those are the top sections on the board. So, as the game is progressing, you'll have more and more tokens in your bag, and maybe you'll have the ability to draw even more tokens. So you'll be able to complete more than one action on a turn. So it's going to start with the first player, they'll do one action, then it'll go to the next player, and so on, and you'll go around and around until you pass where you cannot perform any more actions. Now you can do this thing where you leave your tokens on a certain section on your player board so it doesn't take up spaces in the market below, and then you'll kind of set yourself up for the next round. So you may not want to do a certain action, but you may still want to assign certain tokens to certain areas, which will set you up for the next round, and then they won't take up space. So when you're pulling out tokens in the next round, to place them, you first have to place them in the market, of course. And as you end up getting more and more corpses in the market, it might get a little bit harder. So you might want to start placing out tokens in various sections of your player board to just kind of set yourself up for the next round. So that can be helpful. Again, corpse tokens can be very annoying because if you're, like, for example, limited to only drawing 6 tokens and you've already got like 4 corpses on your market and you don't want to add them back to your bag, so for the most part, you're going to have an option, unless a special event comes up, where you can take your corpse tokens and add them back to your bag, but then you risk pulling them out again. However, if you leave them on your market board, which you're allowed to do, they just use up space. So, it's kind of like, your choice what you want to do. So those were the top sections, the ship, the wagon, and the guild hall, so that you can move on that part of the board and collect goods, which can be turned in order to complete objectives, or you can save them for the end of the game to earn points. And you can only build a guild hall where there is no existing guild hall, except for on the main section, the main city. So in Orléans, everyone can build a guild hall there, but otherwise each city can only have one guild hall. So if someone builds a guild hall before you, you are screwed. So you can kind of like look at other people's boards, which I would recommend doing, because I kind of screwed myself over in the last round majorly. Like, I was hoping to build a guild hall, but the player who was going before me built the guild hall in the only place where I could build it. So then I was kind of out of action to do. And then someone else screwed me over with something else. So like, in the last turn of the game, I kind of really got screwed over in the last round. So those are the moving actions and stuff like that. So the other actions on your board available are castle. So if you place a farmer, a blue guy, and a black guy, so white, blue, and black tokens on your castle section, that will allow you to move up the red track on the main board with your cube, which will now allow you in the future to pull out more tokens from your bag, and it will also add a red token to your bag. Now, an important point is you can only take a certain action if there is a character token for you to collect and add in your bag. So for example, let's suppose all the red tokens have already been depleted because people have already collected all of them. You can no longer use the red action, and you can no longer even advance your cube on the red track as a result. So the red one, castling, allows you to increase your cube on that track, and it'll eventually allow you to pull out more and more tokens as the game is progressing. That is what the red section does. Let's go back. So we have the farmhouse. You need a blue and a brown token in order to get a new farmer and add it to your bag. And the farmer, when you advance your cube there, the first thing you'll get to do is, when you advance your cube, is collect a wheat good. And then again, you'll get another wheat good, and then you'll get some cheeses. And then, so farmers will give you different kinds of goods the farther you advance. Now, the person who is farthest on the farmer track at the end of each round will get to collect a coin from the bank. If you are the farthest behind on the farmer track, you will owe a coin to the bank at the end of the game. However, if you're tied for last place, then you don't owe coins, which is great. So that is what the farmhouse does. If you go to the university, you will need a white, a brown, and a black in order to advance on the university track. And that will give you a scholar, which is a gray guy. Advancing on the university track will allow you to advance on the bottom of the board, which is great. So when you advance on the advance your cube on the university track, it'll have a book icon with a certain number next to it. So the first time you advance on the university track, you'll have a book icon with the number 2, which means you will advance your cube at the very bottom of the board 2 spaces. And that's going to determine how many points you get at the end of the game. So you want to advance on the university because at the very bottom of the board, you're going to pass certain points, which will be your multiplier for points at the end of the game. So the multipliers there are 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally 6 at the very end. So you want to try to get as far along as possible. And as you're advancing on that track, you'll also get like some other rewards like coins and so on. And if you're the first person to hit a certain section where there is like this little yellow guy, you will be able to pick him up if you're the first one to do that. And he's also going to be a multiplier for points at the end of the game. And there's certain other tracks on the board where he is available for the person who gets there first as well. For example, like on the blue track. So if you do a village action, so a village action will allow you to either get a blue guy, a brown guy, or a black one. So you'll get either the blue guy, which I can't tell what he is. The brown one, he looks like he's carrying like an axe or something, and the black token looks like he's a king. So if you have a white, a blue, and a brown, in your board underneath the village section, then you can choose which of the above tokens you want to add to your bag when it's your turn. So you can get either, again, a blue one, a brown one, or a black one. So if you get a brown one, you'll advance your cube on the brown track. Now, when you advance your cube on the brown track, you are going to get gears. Gears can cover token requirements on certain sections of the board, but only one gear per section. So that will be a permanent thing you have unless an event removes it, which in our game it did. So gears can be very beneficial because that will be like a permanent fixture on your board, requiring one fewer token for you to achieve a certain action. So gears can be very helpful. So again, when you're advancing on the brown track, you'll add a brown token to your bag and you'll get a gear as you start advancing. You'll get more and more gears if you advance on that. The black one, you will get a king token to add to your bag, and you'll also be able to add a new tile extension to your board, which will be an action that only you can take. So you'll get to add some kind of a new building or whatever to, I call them buildings, action space to your board, which will require certain kinds of tokens and will give you some kind of a benefit which other people don't have. So I advanced on that section, I believe 3 times. So I think I had a total, or maybe twice. So I think I had a total of 2 or 3 different buildings. One of them was really great because it gave me money, and I was really short on money for like the first part of the game. But then when I got that building, I was able to get a lot of money. Another building of mine was really great because it only required 2 tokens of a certain kind in order for me to do a wagon action, a wagon movement. So that was really great. Instead of requiring 3 tokens, I only needed 2 of a certain kind. So buildings can be very useful. So again, by advancing on the black track, you can get buildings to add to your board. You will get to look through the whole stack and then choose which one you want. And of course, you get a king token chip, I guess I should call them chips, not tokens, chip into your bag. The blue one, if you advance along the blue one, you're just going to get money. And of course, you'll get the blue chip added to your bag. And if you are the first person to reach the end of the blue track, you'll also get one of those multiplier yellow guys, which I talked about, which will be a multiplier for the end of the game. So that's how the village works, and I explained the university. Monastery requires a scholar and a king, and if you do that, you can pick up a yellow monk. Yellow monks are wilds and can be used as any other chip color, so they can be very beneficial. And again, in our game, we had only half of the monks available to collect, which was unfortunate. Another thing that can be used as a wild is the nurse. I believe it's a nurse. It's a purple meeple. So we played with the plague expansion, which comes with an extension to each person's player board, which is the infirmary. So the infirmary comes with a purple meeple, which can be used as a wild token. And the great thing about this is that it doesn't go in your bag. So you simply place the meeple on a chip spot for which one you want to use, which chip that purple meeple is going to act as for that round. Also, the infirmary, if you place a token on the bottom part of the infirmary, you can get a new objective card. And objective cards are really great because not only will they give you points at the end of the game, but when you complete an objective card, if you have corpses in the market area of your board, which are taking up spaces, the moment you complete an objective card, those corpses go away. So it's really beneficial to get those objective cards and complete them. So in the plague expansion, everyone starts the game with 2 objective cards. And I was pretty lucky. I was able to complete both of mine pretty early on because mine were fairly easy to complete. Mine required me to build a guild hall in a location which was very close to Orléans on the map. It was just 1 space away, so I immediately went there and I was able to build a guild hall there. So I immediately got rid of some corpses, and then another of my objectives was to deliver a certain kind of good, just to like donate a certain type of good. So I just needed to collect that good and then just donate it on a turn, and boom, got rid of some corpses. But then later on in the game, my bag was filled with corpses, like really, really full of corpses, and I just could not manage to get rid of them. So those are the main sections. And then there's one section in the middle of the board, which is called the scriptorium, where you are required to have a red and a gray chip. And that will allow you to just advance one space on that bottommost track of the main board that we talked about, which will give you the points that you need in order to, use your multipliers at the end. And then there's a town hall. So the town hall needs either one or two chips of any color. And when you do that, you have to take those chips and place them on their matching color on the town hall board, which will give you a special action of some kind. So like, for example, it might let you collect some money, or it might let you go up on the bottommost university track that we talked about, and so on. So there's different benefits, but you permanently lose that chip. And the other thing is, like, there's a certain number of like those various actions on the town hall board, and the person who places the very last chip in a certain action space on the town hall board will get that yellow guy that we were talking about at the end, which will help them increase their overall points at the end of the game for the multipliers. So you kind of want to be the last person to place a chip in a certain row in the town hall in order to get that yellow dude at the end. But if you're really desperate for something, a town hall is an action you can take if you're super desperate for something. And you just don't have the chips necessary to do something on your own player board. So those are all the actions on your player board that you are going to be drawing chips and placing them on and building up your bag. So you're going to be building up your bag with more and more characters that you're going to be drawing out. And so, it's kind of like an engine builder as well. So, depending on what kinds of actions you want to take, you'll be like, okay, maybe I need more of this color chip, and maybe I'll, try to get, more of those, and I don't need as many of this. So maybe I can go to the town hall and get rid of these chips, and so on. And again, with the plague expansion, you do need to watch out for those corpses. So again, at the end of the round, you then resolve the event that came up, and almost all of them are going to add corpses to either your market or your bag. And then, as I talked about, at the end of the round, you have the option of taking the corpses from your market and putting them back in your bag, but then you risk pulling them out again. However, if you leave them on your board, they're just going to take up spaces, but sometimes it's better to leave them on your board, especially if you think you're going to fulfill an objective on the next round, which will allow you to get rid of them, because you can only get rid of corpses if they're on your market board when you complete an objective. You cannot remove corpses from your bag at that point in time. There are special events which may allow you to do so, but those are special. So I think that's really the gist of the game. So again, it's a bag building game where you're just trying to get the chips. And again, if a certain color of chip is depleted, you can no longer take that action and you can no longer go up that track. So I was doing really great on the university track, and I was the first person to reach the very end of the university track, and all the scholars were gone. So the player after me in the last round wanted to go up the university track to also hit the 6-point mark, but unfortunately he had to come up with other ways of doing that, which he did manage. But he could no longer use the university in order to do that because there was no more gray chips in order for the player to collect, so they could no longer use the university action. So there's stuff to be mindful of in this game as you're playing. You may want to look at the boards of other players. You may even hesitate on placing your chips on the various action spots after drawing them from your bag, because after you draw them from your bag, they first go in your market, and then you're kind of deciding how you want to allocate them for your actions in that round. So I wish I had been more careful and looked at the player to my right who was going before me in the last round, because then I would have seen for sure, oh, he's going to build a guild hall. And by looking at where his meeple was on the map, I would have seen that he's going to build a guild hall where I was planning on building it. And that was the only location I could build it. I couldn't manage to get anywhere else to build a guild hall. So he kind of screwed me out of some points. And then I got screwed out of points in other ways in the last round as well. Because again, I had so many corpses. So end of game scoring. So end of game scoring, again, you're going to score your objectives. You're going to look at all the goods tokens you have left over, and each goods token is worth a different amount of points. So there's some like more prestigious goods, which might be worth like 5 and 4 points and so on. And then you have your lower value goods. So you'll look at the little player A to determine how many each of your goods are worth. Money is worth a point each, so each coin is a point. So if you manage to get a lot of money, then really great, because you have a lot of points. Then you're going to see where you are on the university track and take that number and multiply it by the total amount of those yellow guys we talked about plus your guild halls. So you're going to add up the number of guild halls and those yellow guys we talked about, which you'll get by advancing on various tracks. If you're the first person to get to that yellow guy, you get to take him. So you add up that number and multiply it by your multiplier, and then you get that number of points. Then you lose points if you play with the plague expansion for each corpse you have. And then whoever has the most points will win. So yeah, so really fantastic bag building game, and I cannot believe it took me this long to play Orléans, but there are so many classic games which I haven't played yet, like really popular, like evergreen games which I haven't played. Like, for example, I've never played Castles of Burgundy. So happy I got to play this, and really happy to my friend for teaching it to me and letting us play with his copy, which was amazing with all of the upgraded chips and bits and everything. Really, really nice. I really enjoyed my play of this. As someone who does enjoy bag building games, I thought it was a lot of fun. I like, you know, a little bit of I like the element of luck, but I also like the, you know, element of, you know, there's luck, yes, but there's also strategizing, and you just need to know how to strategize based on the good or bad luck you have and where you're going to allocate your chips. And again, you know, there are some more detailed rules which I didn't really get into about chip placement, and you know, maybe taking back a chip which you had already kind of allocated somewhere on your board in the previous round, and then that taking up space in your market and so on. So I didn't get into those minute details, but they are there. So of course, if you're playing, you'll want to pay attention to those in the rule book. But of course, you know, this game comes with a lot of different expansions, and I only played with the Plague expansion, but it's, you know, it seems like a really popular game that people really love, and I hope I'll get to play it again. You know, as someone who is, you know, trying to cull a lot of games from her collection, I'm not going to say I want to buy it, but I kind of do want to buy it. But I'm not going to buy it right away, maybe someday in the future. So yeah, so that was Orléans. So if you are someone like me who hadn't yet played this amazing classic game, I highly recommend that you check it out. And it definitely seems like an evergreen game to me. Yeah, so that was Orléans. So let's move on. So let's talk about games that I am backing. I'm still backing the same games as before, and they both actually have only 4 days left. And that is A Place for All My Books, which I'm backing. So that's a game that I'm backing. It's not like a game I previewed, so I'm paying for it just because it looks like a really cute, cozy, and crunchy game. It looks really good. So I talked about it in more detail in the last video if you want to check it out. And then I'm backing Baghdad, the City of Peace at the Pledge Manager level in order to get my production copy of that game, since that is a game that I covered for its Kickstarter. So A Place for All My Books has currently earned $702,965 at the time I'm shooting this video on Sunday. So it's got almost 13,000 backers, so that is doing really well. Baghdad, City of Peace, at the time I'm shooting this, has earned $94,500 roughly, with about 1,300 backers. So yeah, I'm really curious, like, what makes people go for certain games over others. Like Baghdad, City of Peace, I think is a fantastic game. And I really enjoyed my play of it, and I think Fabio Lopiano and Nestor Mangione are really great designers. So yeah, so I'm really not sure like how a game can become more popular than, you know, some other game. But of course, I think one of the reasons is maybe, you know, people who are promoting different games. Like A Place for All My Books, I know was, you know, promoted by some really big content creators on TikTok and stuff like that. So maybe it also appeals to book readers as well. So maybe it appeals to people who read books and don't necessarily play board games. I don't know. So I don't have any really many new arrivals to show you. Just one thing, in fact, which is just an expansion that I had backed. So I had backed the Halloween expansion for Cat Packs, and that arrived, and I don't think I showed you guys. So I'm just going to show you that today. So I already sleeved the cards for the Halloween expansion. So, and they're also coming out with a new expansion, which is like a more summer themed one, like camping or summer vibes or something. I don't know. But let me pull out the cards for the Halloween one. And I think when you play with an expansion, you're supposed to remove certain cards from the actual base game. Which kind of sucks. Like, so you're gonna have to be like, you know, figuring out which cards you want to remove and stuff. Now, it did come with this Arachna-Kitty or Arachna-Kitty, and I think that the base game also came with that. I'm not 100% sure, But here are the Halloween themed cards. I really love this one. I'm absolutely obsessed with the artwork in this game, which, not gonna lie, it's like obviously one of the reasons that I love this game. But it is actually a fun thinky game, tile placement game with cards. But I absolutely love the pun names with these cards and the artwork. Like, absolutely obsessed with the artwork in this game. I'm just really, really into it. And so obviously I had to have the Halloween one when that was announced. Ooh, I really love this card. That is very cool. Obviously I love the ones that look really Halloween-esque with the pumpkins. Ah, this one's super cool too. Oh, I really love that one. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. And then I'll show you the playmat. So it's still a 4-player game, so I didn't really need to get the extra playmat because now I have an additional playmat that you know, so but I guess that just gives people more choices. So if I play a 4-player game of this, now people have more choices about which playmat they can use because I got the Halloween playmat. But yeah, I said this artwork just so freaking cool. And then it comes with some player aids. I think that there might be some specific rules for the Halloween expansion. I'm not sure, but let me show you the Halloween playmat. So it's the kitties doing the seance. So that is the new playmat, and then I'll just show you the previous ones I had. So I got one of each from the previous original campaign that I had backed. And this was my favorite, but now, I mean, I think this one's still my favorite because the Northern Lights, they're so freaking pretty. But then the next one I think is the Halloween one. So I think the Halloween one is my next favorite. So yeah, so these are the cool playmats that go with this game. And of course the box is definitely not big enough to contain those. It's hardly big enough to contain even all the cards for the expansion, plus all of the upgraded bits which I have, and so on. So yeah, so this is a recent arrival of mine, which I am super excited to play. So I hope I'll get to play with the new Halloween cards soon. So that was that, so let's move on. So I already know that I'm not going to be attending UKGE this year. So this will be the first year in a number of years that I won't be attending. I think I attended UKGE like the last 3 years, but then if you guys watch my last UKGE video, I actually mentioned how I was actually really bored. So there was one day where I was at UKGE and I was actually bored and I just sat on the stairs for quite some time and was just scrolling TikTok. So I'm not like super bummed that I'm not going to UKGE this year, but I'm taking like a family vacation. And then just the way my vacation time with work works, with it being prorated, I won't be then able to take another vacation at the end of May like I usually do for London. I still want to go to London, but I'm going to have to postpone London until later in the summer, until I've accumulated enough days again. So no UKGE for me this year. So I hope that there's not going to be like some super special release, but again, I don't think so. And as someone who is now, like, it's my priority now to make Essen like my one big convention that I'll attend every year. Like Essen, I think, is going to be the most important one for me going forward, and I've already attended it twice and absolutely loved it, and it's a really great opportunity to get new releases that don't show up in America for a couple of months yet. Like UKGE doesn't have that same it doesn't have all the new releases like Essen does, of course. So not super bummed about missing UKGE, but oh well. So yeah, but hopefully I'll get out to London later in the summer instead. So as I mentioned, I am going on a work trip, so there won't be a new video again until let me just look at my calendar. So I leave for my work trip on the 15th, and then I get back on, yeah, so actually, yeah, I don't think that there will be another video until like March 3rd, but there's a chance that there could be another video on the 24th, or maybe not, because I'm not even sure I'll end up playing any games if I have that weekend free to shoot a video. I don't know yet, but there's definitely not going to be a video again on the 17th. So no new video on the 17th. Oh, is that President's Day? Do I? Well, I'm going on a work trip, and now I'm wondering if we actually get President's Day off, in which case I'll be working on a day off, which would really suck. But I don't know. I'll have to check my work calendar because I don't know if we actually get that as a day off. I don't think so. I don't think President's Day is a day off typically. Anyway, so yeah, so no new video on the 17th for sure. So I think that those are the only updates. So let's move on. So for this week, we were supposed to read 2 chapters, and I am terrible, so I don't know if you watched the intro of this video in which I mentioned that a bunch of stuff came up on the day today when I was going to read my readings for book clubs, but other stuff came up and I didn't get a chance. So I'm going to say for next time, let's just read up to chapter so I'll just add one more because chances are you're ahead of me and I need to catch up now. So let's read up to chapter 18. So let's read up to page 299. And then when I get back, we'll continue on with the book. So I'm behind right now, so it'll give you a little bit of a break if you're ahead of me. So my apologies for not doing my readings for this week. I should really allocate time during the actual week and not on the day that I'm shooting videos to catch up on my readings. So I'll try to be better about that. I'm just really not very good. So sorry about that. So if you're ahead of me, like take the time to relax and enjoy and hopefully remember stuff so that when I do come back for the next video and talk about it, hopefully you'll still remember what happened. So again, read up to page 299 for next time. So let's move on. So for this week, we were supposed to read 2 chapters and I'm terrible because I did not do it. So as I mentioned in the intro of this video, I was saving my readings for today and then other stuff came up and I didn't have the time to read. And I have plans later in the evening, so I couldn't like postpone shooting my videos until much later and so on. So reading did not happen. But since I'm going to be gone for quite some time, and it seems like people, from what I'm seeing in the comments, not everyone is caught up on the readings anyway, so this will be a good chance for people to catch up. So I'm just going to leave it for the same 2 chapters for next time. So if you haven't caught up, then please read up to chapter 6. So we will continue with chapter 7 onwards when I get back from my work trip. So read up to page 188 if you haven't yet. So we will continue with the book club when I return from my work trip. So again, apologies for not doing my readings for this week. Terrible, I know. But I'm still going to talk about Palestine and what's happening in the news now. So if you guys have not been living under a rock, or maybe you choose to live under a rock just because things are so bad right now in the world and you just want to, stick your head in the sand and just don't want to be confronted with bad news every day, I guess that's kind of understandable. But if you do watch the news, then you will know that Trump is planning to turn Gaza into a Riviera. Like he's planning to invade Gaza with American troops and take it over and build up resorts and just basically ethnically cleanse Gaza of all its people, its Palestinian people, and build hotels and turn it into a Riviera. And when he announced this, and you could see the war criminal who has an arrest warrant out for him sitting next to Trump as they're announcing this, and you could see the smirk on this most evil monster's face, like absolutely disgusting, like just beyond disgusting. Like, these people do not deserve to be called people. They truly are just monsters. Like that is what they are. They are just monsters. And despite the ceasefire, we know that many Palestinians are being killed in the West Bank. In fact, today I saw something on Facebook which was really upsetting. So I have these friends on Facebook who I went to law school with. They are Orthodox Jewish, and I saw that they posted today, they're Zionist, and I saw that they posted today on Facebook that they are planning to move to a settlement in the West Bank. And if you know from our readings that we've done for our book clubs on Palestine, or from if you're just educated about the issue, then you know that those settlements are 100% illegal. They go against international law. There are not supposed to be settlements in the West Bank, but there are settlements in the West Bank, and they continue to pop up, and more being created every day. More and more Palestinians are being forcefully removed from their homes at gunpoint. So this is something that's been ongoing for over 70 years, and it's happening even today. And so these people who I went to law school with, this couple, are selling their house in America, and these people have no ethnic ties to this land. They are 100% white, American, and they're moving to a settlement in the West Bank. Like, just really sickening. Like, people have no fucking shame. So just really just unbelievable. Like, the fact that I you know, when I was in law school, I hung out with these people. We had pizza nights together. We cooked food together. I learned a lot about Judaism from them. Like, you know, I learned a lot since they're Orthodox Jewish. I learned a lot about, you know, how strict Orthodox Jews are about a lot of things in terms of cooking. Like, you know, we had multiple dinner nights together with, you know, them and other friends included. And, you know, we learned a lot from them. And I'm just really just so disappointed. I mean, you know, as time went on, I started to see that they are Zionist, and you know, seeing this post on Facebook just really just upsetting, just so upsetting that these people are just so shamelessly moving to a settlement in the West Bank, which is illegal by international law. So yeah, so, you know, Trump is going to turn Gaza into Riviera, and Americans are moving to settle illegal settlements in the West Bank. Like, you know, what else is new? Yeah, so you know, the news about Gaza and Trump wanting to just ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians, like, I'm just like, still, I do not see people in the board game industry saying anything about it. Like, if you didn't care before, like, why don't you care now? Like, you know, even before your tax dollars were being used to murder Palestinians, to commit a genocide, and now there's a very strong likelihood that American troops are going to be sent over there and more of your tax dollars are going to be spent. Like, why do people still not give a fuck? Like, I still don't see people in the board game industry talking about this. Like, they're still not talking about it. Like, I've seen so many people reference that poem, like, oh, first they came for the Jews and I didn't speak up. First, then they came for the blacks and I didn't speak up. Then they came up for the Asians and I didn't speak up. Whatever that poem says, you know. And now people are saying, oh, and then they came for the trans people and they didn't speak up. So I'm like, what about Palestinians? Like, why do Arabs and Palestinians and Muslims never, you know, factor into this equation? Like, why does no one care about them? Like, even, and I know people are like, oh, you always pick on poor Eric Lang. No, not poor Eric Lang, because he makes it a point to talk about stuff, but not the Palestinians. So if here is someone who is like a self-proclaimed expert in political science and whatever, and we'll talk about other issues, but very, very blatantly ignore Palestinians. So he made a post recently on Facebook, which was yesterday, in fact. And of course, I'll have a screenshot here. And it says, you know, he posted a headline which said from the Washington Post, Trump halts aid to South Africa, claiming discrimination against Afrikaners. And Eric's post says, fixed headline, racist banana republic dictator, Trump, defunds aid to brown country he couldn't find on a map because his oligarch boyfriend, Elon Musk, wants his ethno-state back. So here is Eric Lang talking about an ethno-state. So here is someone who knows what an ethno-state is. Israel is a fucking ethno-state, although the ethno part can very much be argued because, as we've seen from reading this, you would know that the Palestinians who have existed in Palestine for thousands of years are the Palestinians who are being genocided and ethnically cleansed from that land today. The Zionists who came in don't have the ethnic connection to Palestine that the Palestinians who are being genocided and ethnically cleansed today. But regardless, we refer to Israel as an ethno-state because, you know, Zionists claim that Judaism is an ethnicity, and that's how they refer to it. And Israel is an apartheid state, as we've already seen from reading the 100 Years' War on Palestine and then the 10 myths about Israel. Like, very much an ethno-state, an apartheid state. We've seen this, and everyone who's educated about the world should know this. Yet, here's Eric Lang ignoring the news about Trump wanting to turn Gaza into Riviera and talking about South Africa when there's like literal apartheid and a literal ethno-state and so much going on there that he's just, again, completely ignoring. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know, Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians have been so dehumanized that people just will not give them attention and will not talk about them. At this point, Eric Lang seems like a fucking troll to me. It's like he's a troll who just, you know, will make one comment about Palestine in the very beginning when Israel does something shitty and then never talks about it again. Just so he can, like, you know, make himself feel better. Like, oh, well, I did mention it. I talked about it once. Like I said, oh, poor Palestinians. Like, Israel's gonna, you know, retaliate disproportionately, but he'll also express a lot of sympathy and empathy for the Israelis, but like not as much sympathy and empathy for the Palestinians whenever he does talk about it, and then he ignores it for the rest of time. So even as Trump is making plans to invade Gaza, like again, Eric is ignoring it and talking about a stupid headline relating to South Africa. And if he really gives a shit about South Africa, he would know that South Africa is one of the countries that worked really hard to try to get the arrest warrant against Netanyahu. And so many people in South Africa are supporters of Palestine because they know what Palestinians are going through. They lived in an apartheid state and they see that Palestinians have to deal with an apartheid state, which is Israel. So they see what the Palestinians are going through. I mean, Mandela's own children are pro-Palestinian. Like, these people are pro-Palestinian. Like, you can, and here is Eric Lang ignoring it and talking about like a stupid headline, which, yeah, it's terrible that aid is halted to South Africa, of course. But what about Palestine? Like, seriously, like, what about Palestine? Like, it's not even like showing up anywhere in his timeline on, Facebook or Blue Sky or anywhere. So there was one comment from someone, an Arab Muslim who's in the board game industry, and he wrote, he's also caving to Zionist demands to punish South Africa for bringing the ICJ case against Israel for its genocide against Palestinians. The Nazis and Zionists are one. 100%. At the time that I took the screenshot, Eric did not acknowledge that comment or respond to it in any way. And I've noticed that whenever people make pro-Palestinian or anti-Zionist comments on Eric's posts, he just completely ignores them. Like I talked about when he gave his really shitty take in October 2023, there was a Palestinian. I talked about this one Palestinian who existed in the board game community, who has since left the board game community because she was just so fed up with how people were, in this industry just not giving a shit about Palestinians. But she had commented on Eric's shitty take back in October 2023 and again notified him how he again missed the mark, just like he did back in 2021. Did he even acknowledge her comment? No, she took the time to write out this whole long comment, which Eric completely ignored. So again, I think this just shows what kind of a person Eric Lang is and his buddies, and they are fucking Zionist shills and maybe Zionists themselves. Like I talked about in my last video, how I really do think at this point that Eric is a fucking Zionist, and this is why he, just will not talk about it, but we'll talk about all the other stuff. And if you guys have done your readings and you've read the books which we've been talking about, The 100 Years War on Palestine and The 10 Myths About Israel, and if you are educated at all about what Israel is, you will know that Zionism is no fucking different than Nazism. So it's the same fucking thing. So you cannot say that you support Palestinians while being pro-Zionist. Like, if you support any Zionist publishers or designers or companies, then no, you do not give a fuck about the Palestinians. Like, it's just very simple. You have no integrity then. Like, I just saw recently a post on Instagram from this content creator who I'm sure everyone knows, Danny Standring, who is now has made it public that she's dating someone from Shut Up and Sit Down, that guy Matt Lease. Matt Lease is someone who back in 2021 was originally supporting me for my stance on Palestine, until everyone started saying like, oh no, you have to block Sarah because blah, blah, blah. And then I made the recording public, and then if you listen to the recording, you will see that it's very fucking obvious that Helena Kappel is a Zionist. Like, there's no ifs or buts about it. Someone who has such an issue with someone saying Palestinian lives matter, but could not explain why saying Black Lives Matter is okay. Like, it's so obvious what she is. And now you have people like Matt Lease, who claims to be pro-Palestinian, just openly playing games from Kids Table Board Gaming. Like, what the hell? Like, if you're going to promote games from Kids Table Board Gaming, which, I saw him in a reel of Daniel Stranding's where they were playing a game from Kids Table Board Gaming, like, if you're going to actually allow your face to be used to promote a game for a Zionist publisher, then you cannot fucking say that you support the Palestinians. Like, it's the same thing as saying you support Jewish people while playing games made by Nazis. Same fucking thing. So no, these people have no fucking integrity, and I'm just sick of it. I'm just really, really sick of people in this industry having no fucking integrity when it comes to the Nazism of today, which is Zionism. They are seriously one and the same, just as this person said on Eric's status. article that he posted on Facebook, which of course Eric is going to completely ignore because he's a fucking Zionist shill, just like so many people in this industry. So they should be fucking ashamed of themselves, like really fucking ashamed of themselves, but we all know that they have no shame because they consider themselves to be the champions of diversity, equity, and inclusion in this industry, which is complete bullshit. It's not true. So, you know, I'm always going to call it out, and I don't care if that makes me seem petty, but until these people change and until Arabs and Muslims are treated the same as other minorities in this industry and given the same respect and the same acknowledgement and all of that, then, you know, I'm just going to point out all the double standards and hypocrisy in this industry. I'm just going to continue to do it and just be that annoying person in this industry. And I don't care if it causes me to lose business, which it so very clearly has. Like, it's not even a question. Like, obviously I've lost a lot of business. I just don't get as many bookings as I used to. It's just very, very clear. But you know, like, these people are always like, oh, you have to call out bad actors when you see them, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm calling out the bad fucking actors. I'm calling out the bad fucking Zionists and the Zionist shows. That's what I'm doing. But they're not going to call out themselves. Like, they're going to just pretend that it's perfectly okay to be a Zionist and support Zionists, but it's not fucking okay. And one day, when the world sees Zionists for what they fucking are, which is Nazis, you know, and people are like, why didn't anyone stop this? Like, first we had the Holocaust and then this, like, why didn't anyone stop it? People like me are shouting, like, fucking stop it, like, speak up against Zionists, but no one is. So I'm going to remind these people that they were on the wrong fucking side of history, which they absolutely are. And there's going to be this proof on the internet forever that they are on the wrong fucking side of history. So if you support Zionists, you are on the wrong fucking side of history. So yeah, do not support Israel, do not support Zionists, don't support Nazis, don't support the KKK. Like, how fucking hard is that? Like, why is this so hard to understand? I do not understand. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm just really angry, but as I am every week. But anyway, so that is my rant of the week. So let's move on. So this week's question of the week is inspired by Orléans, which is a bag building game. Now, during bag building games, I will look into my bag to see what tokens or chips I have in my bag. Is this something that you think people should be allowed to do when playing bag building games? I personally think it is, because the way I see it, this is not a memory game. Like, when I'm building up my bag with chips or tokens or whatever, it's not a memory game. Like, I'm playing a game and I'm hoping I'll draw out the right chips. Like, I'm not looking in my bag to try to situate certain chips in a certain position and then reach out and pull out those chips. Like, no, I always shuffle the bag really well, but I'll look into the bag and see what chips I have in there and what is like the probability of me drawing something out. Or maybe if I have the opportunity to add new chips into my bag, I might see what I already have and then decide based on that, like, oh, you know what? I actually need more brown chips, or I actually need more yellow chips. So maybe I should do that action instead. So I will look into my bag during bag building games. But I've had a friend who gets really annoyed by this and says that you should not be allowed to do that. Like, they're in a bag for a reason. But my, reasoning is that it's not a memory game. Like, I'm not being tested on my memory. Like, we're not being competing for memory here. We're competing, in a strategic game, and the chips we pull out just, and how we use those chips is what the game is. So I think it should be okay. I think people should be allowed to see what they have, as long as they then shuffle it thoroughly so that you cannot actually pull out certain things knowing, like, oh, this one chip is in this part of the bag and this one's in this part of the bag. Like, no, if you look at the chips in your bag, then you should give it a really good shuffle before pulling things out, which I always do. But I will, like, literally at some points during the game, which I did during Orléans, like, dump out all my chips into my hands to see what I have. Like, I would be like, okay, I have this many corpses. Like, the probability of me, pulling out a corpse is this much now. And I have only, like, oh no, I only have like one brown chip. Maybe I should get more brown chips. Like, I will take a look at what I have in order to kind of determine which actions I want to take next. But I don't consider that cheating, because again, it's not a memory game. So I want to know what you guys think about that. I want to know what you guys think about taking a look at what you have in your bags in bag building games. Now, with deck building games, it can be a little bit different, of course, because there's been times where I want to look at the cards, which are in my draw pile. And I think quite honestly, I think that that should be allowed as well. But I can see the argument for that not being allowed, because, you know, I guess some games specify, like some games specify that once a card is in the discard pile, you can like look at it, but obviously you can't look at your draw pile then. So maybe the alternative is actually looking at your discard pile. But what if you actually want to remember which cards you have and you want to determine which cards to buy? I think, you know, not looking at cards in a deck building game, I can understand that more so than I can understand not looking at chips in a bag building game. Like, I think looking at your bag and the chips you have in your bag in a bag building game should be allowed, but I can see the arguments for not doing it during a deck building game, even if you could just shuffle the cards again. I can see the arguments for not doing that. But I want to know your thoughts on that. Like, leave your comments below. Let me know if you think it's cheating. I don't think it is, but let me know what you know what you think about this. And I would be really curious to see if anyone else feels this, you know, the same way that I do. I hope so. I hope I'm not alone on this, but let me know. And until next time, bye.